stamping friends. Brenda Hillard here from Create with Brenda, and I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And today I have just really some kind of fun things to share with you. Um, as I said in the preview, lots of tips, tricks, tools, whatever. But and today I try to keep my lives right at that 30-minute mark. But today might go a little bit longer because it's a bit of a technique, but it's such a pretty outcome. So I hope you'll stay with me. I'm gonna give it just a few minutes here because it is just 9 o'clock. So let's see what we've got going. Okay, now we've got people coming in. Perfect. All right, you guys. So let's get started. I'm going to move it down to my workstation, and hopefully that's good. If it's a dark screen, just give me a second. Good morning, Beth. Looking forward to seeing you today. Look, everything's working just as planned. This is a great day. So, is what I have piled up here on my workstation. We have the annual catalog. This is good through April. So not a lot of time left in this one. If there's something in there that you're interested in, you could make your list and get it now because it's celebration also. And that goes until the end of February, so February 29th. Um, the other thing I was going to say about the annual catalog is if there's something in this catalog that's in a bundle, which remember, bundles save us 10%. So if there's a bundle in this annual catalog that you've been eyeing, now is the time to grab it because if it does carry forward into the new May 2024 to April 2025 catalog, it does not mean that it's necessarily at a bundled price. So just keep that in mind. And then the other thing that I shared last week, and I'll bring forward to this week as well, is that we've got in colors that are retiring. So the Sweet Sorbet, Parakeet Party, Tahitian Tide, Orchid Oasis, and Starry Sky will be retiring. So now is a great time to stock up on re-inkers, cardstock, embellishments, ribbons, whatever whatever your favorite was out of that suite of products, or if it was all of them, great. Good morning, Karen. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. And then, of course, the catalog that just went live in January, the mini catalog. And I'm going to be featuring a product out of there today. You can find it on pages 38, 39. And I don't know that the pages in here do it justice. This bundle comes with the stamp set, the dies, and then you get this set of 5 decorative masks. Now, these decorative masks work a little bit differently than our decorative masks from the past. And so that's what I want to share with you today. So let me close this up. One other note of interest is that there were new items added to the celebration offering as of February 1st. So check those out. There were some pretty sweet things added. So if you haven't placed your celebration order or you were waiting to see if there was going to be something else offered, well, now there is. So today, like I said, I'm going to show you the Enduring Beauty. It's a photopolymer stamp set, 8 stamps. It comes with the dies. There are 10 dies in this set. There's this really pretty label die as well. And then it comes with the Enduring Beauty decorative mask. Like I said, that's a set of 5. Now, there's a few things today that you're going to see in my demonstration that are not Stampin' Up! And so I'm going to get those out of the way right now. All right. So, what I have is this is actually one of those that's used for like drying baby bottles and whatnot. It's got the little plastic insert with the tray. I I'm a fan of stenciling, and I do use quite a few stencils from another company outside of Stampin' Up. But this is what I use to dry my stencils. So it works really well when you wash them, dry them, and then you just want them to air dry without sticking together. I just stand them right up in here. And the other thing it works nice for is you will see on these, and I don't know how well it's going to show up today, but there's little numbers right up here by the V, and that's the recommended um, stenciling order. And I call it stenciling, they call it masking. You can call it blend, call it whatever you want, but it's a beautiful technique. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that just helps keep it in order for me for blending as well. You'll see the beautiful glass mat. This works really well for this project. It comes with this no slip stamp pad holder, and it also comes with this thin Sammy to wipe the glass. Obviously, I haven't opened mine yet, but this you can get when you join my team. I'm Joyce Paulson um, from South Dakota. I hope you guys are having good weather like we are. I know it's good weather for people that don't like the cold, and it's not good weather for our community because they depend on snow and ice for fishing, snowmobiling, all that kind of thing. So it's been kind of a rough winter for our locals. Um, all right. So what I'm going to do first on when you join my team, like I said, this can be a freebie. When you join for $99, you have two options right now. You can pick $155 in product, or you can pick $125 in product and get this beautiful glass mat. The other thing I want to share with you that's non-Stampin' Up is underneath my glass plate. I have this magnetic board that I ordered off from Amazon. Okay. And I put that right underneath my glass board. And then I have these beautiful magnets these are not Stampin' Up either, from Tailored Expressions. So now when I put my things down on this board, the magnets will hold them in place. All right. I'm not going to be using that today necessarily, but just so that you know. That's what I'm doing or using. And then the other thing is these makeup brush holders that we use um, for our makeup brushes. This works really good for a stand for our blending brushes as well. So I've got my blending brushes there. Blending brushes can be found in the annual catalog, and they are on page 137. There's two different sizes. There's this full size blending brush, and then there are also smaller blending brushes which help to get into smaller areas. Okay. All right. And then the other thing I'm using that's non-Stampin' Up is this wall safe tape by um, Scotch 3M, Scotch brand, whatever. I like to put that down um, to hold my stencils in place, and I'll show you why in just a minute. All right, so to begin with, I'm going to take some Stampin' Seal, and I'm just going to put a little spot on the back of my cardstock. This piece is just a quarter of a sheet, so it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm going to stick that down to my glass mat. All right, I'm going to take stencil number 1. Actually, a good tip for this is to take this one so that you make sure that you get all of your leaves on your paper down below. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just kind of center up those leaves. I'm going to take a piece of my wall safe tape, And I'm just going to tape that in place right at the top. Okay, let's bring in stencil number 1 and just going to line that up. Yeah, so I have that there. So what I want is I'm using my grid on my glass sheet now to line up my stencil. And how I did that is when I set this one down, I can see that I've got it right at this solid line and the 9 3/4 line here. Okay. So when I take that one up and I bring in stencil number 1, I'm just going to line those up with the same lines, and then I know I'm good. Now, don't get too don't get too worried about any of this because I'll show you here in just a minute once we start stenciling. Just going to tape this down. And let's bring in my color palette. I'm going to be using the Poppy Parade, Calypso Coral, Granny Apple Green, and then I have my Memento. So I'm going to start with Calypso Coral, and I'm going to put that right here on my no slip mat. Grab my blending brush. I'm going to pick up or load it up with ink, and when I start, I'm going to start off the stencil and then come into the stencil. And I have a tendency to stencil with a bit of a heavy, like a heavy hand. And you can see by just rubbing lighter, you get a lighter color. The other thing you want to make sure is that you blend both counterclockwise and clockwise because of the edge. Now, you can do that other technique or just do a one-way circular motion and it'll be darker up. Like if you go counterclockwise, it's going to be darker up at this edge and not so dark down at this edge. So that can be kind of an interesting technique with blending inks as well. All right, I think that looks pretty good. So I'm just going to close up my Calypso Coral and I want to bring in stencil number 2. So I'm going to lift and I can place this one right here, which should be close. But as you can see, I can line it up with my blending lines too, just so that the edges that show are fairly even. Okay, I'm going to tape it in place. Take my Granny Apple Green. And for my stencils, you guys, I just have like a little tub of warm soapy water that I drop them into. And that just helps that the ink doesn't dry on them. They clean up really nice. As you can see, mine are white, and I've been blending with Memento ink, and it didn't stain my stencil. All right, I'm loading up my blending brush again using Granny Apple Green. I'm going to start off from my, start on the stencil itself, and then move into the open space on the stencil, going both directions, clockwise, counterclockwise. You can even go up and down, side to side. I always find that I stencil in a circular motion. I don't know that circular is always necessary, but I find I get good even blending that way. All right, let me see who we've got on. Good morning, Chris. I don't mean to be ignoring you. It's just that once it's like coloring. It's like really therapeutic once you start blending these colors. Um, it's it's mesmerizing to watch this kind of evolve. So that looks pretty good to me. I'm going to lift, and you'll see, like, okay, pretty, right? Take stencil number 3. And again, you can just kind of line this up. You just want to make sure that you don't have any um, white areas showing through the blending areas on your stencil. That looks pretty good to me right there. So I'm going to tape it down. And you saw me kind of moving that in place, I hope. Right. So now I want to take, I'm going to use Poppy Parade. I love Calypso Coral and Poppy Parade together. And this is where when we lift up the stencil, it'll be like, ooh, wow. So let's bring this in. And again, I'm going to start off from the open area on my stencil. And I'm blending both ways, clockwise and counterclockwise. All right, that looks pretty good. And if ever you're questioning, you can always lift up and look. But yes, that looks really good to me. So what do you think? Are you getting the ooh and ah of this? Time for a sip of coffee. All right, now we're on to stencil 4. Stencil 4 is going to be the veining in our leaves. And then there's also some itty bitty stem areas that connect the flowers to the leaves. And again, I think you saw me moving that around. Is all I do is just move so that all of the veining is in the leaves, okay? And you'll see those little stems kind of line up as you're going along. So I'm going to bring my Granny Apple Green, and I know we use this on the leaves, but when we do a second coat or second layer of ink, um, it makes those veins. And you want to make sure that you get in those little tiny stem areas there on this stem. All right. So now to make sure that I have what I want, I can lift up. And yep, I like it. I'm not seeing, I don't know, maybe people just aren't commenting. I'm not seeing the comments update. So if you're commenting, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just seeing it. I know. I know. Karen says that really is looking amazing. You guys, it's a really, really fun technique. And like I said, I haven't played with this like a lot, but I've played with it quite a bit. And really, I've only used these 2 colors, but can you imagine like doing this in blues or greens or whatever? Because I chose Poppy Parade, I am going to make the centers of my flowers black. And I'll show you here in just a minute what that looks like. And it's how I lined up this stencil is there's this little curve right here, and there's this curve on the center. I just kind of lined that up and then did the same with the other flowers. You can see through this stencil. So there's a curve on this one and there's a curve on this one. And then I just poked for the best on these bigger ones. And I know that doesn't sound very accurate or informative, but it is true. All right, so I'm just going to line up those curves, tape it down, and then I have a brush that I use for black, and I'm just going to blend in the centers. And obviously with black, it doesn't matter if you start right on your piece because you want it to be, what am I trying to say, non-opaque. This little mat is really awesome. Have you noticed? Like my stamp pads aren't sliding all over the place with that. Okay, here's the big reveal, you guys. Boom. All right? So that's the technique with using all 5 of the masks. Now, the only thing that gets better about this is you can die cut it because there's the matching die. So I'm going to do that. And it lines up very nicely. That's that. You look so quiet today when I concentrate, which makes it seem like it could be hard to do. It's not. I'm just being particular. Right, I'm going to take a piece of my wall safe tape, and I'm just going to put that down in the stencil as well. What else do we have on? I can't really, like I said, I'm being so I'm concentrating that I'm not even watching like what's going on. But we've got people out there watching, so that's exciting. If you're out there and you want to say hi, say hi. All right, got that taped in place. I'm just going to run it through my die cutting machine just quickly. Mhm. Get this beautiful piece that looks like this. Now, let me tell you about this. So remember I told you there was a really pretty label die in that set? So is what I did is I've got my Stamparatus here, which we all know the Stamparatus was discontinued due to a patent dispute. There's lots of stamp positioners out there if you're liking what you see when I use this one. Um, but the Stamparatuses are no longer for sale. All right. So you see this little piece I stuck in here that I had die cut the labels out of? So is what I'm going to do is I'm just going to center that up in here. I'm going to put magnets on it. And then I'm going to put my label in here just like a puzzle piece. And I think I have my label upside down. Yes, I do. And when I say upside down, it's got the little perforations, and you want to stamp on the smooth side of those, not the bumpy. So I'm just going to center this up where I want it on my label. And then I can pick it up. I can just push this back down in there. I can ink up my stamp, and Stamp it down. Now, you see how I don't have like solid black? Because I used my stamp positioner, and I can go right back again after inking and get a really, really nice image. So there's the Stamparatus. The other thing I wanted to share with you regarding the Stamparatus is, let me clean this off, and in the stamp set, there's the big flower. And I guess you could stamp this first if you wanted to. I chose not to. And the very first one I did was off center. Of course it, right? So I'm going to lay this down. I still have my sticky piece of um, stamp and seal on the back. And now I can lay this coordinating stamp and line it up with my blended image. And then I'm just going to pick up my stamp, straighten my paper back down. It lifted just a little. I'll check my alignment one more time. I think it looks okay, but maybe is what I'll do is like this. Maybe it'd be easier if I put it this way and just make sure that I get that edge of the stamp on all of it. Yeah, that's pretty good. So then I can lay it down this way and pick it up this. I'm making this look harder than it is, but there we go. Now again, I just want to double check and I think I'm good. All right, let's try it. See what happens, right? Worst case scenario, we get a little bit of a blur. Now, I have found that I personally like it better with no stamping. But I wanted you to see that you can stamp this, and then we get this look. So it's got even more detail. And it did line up nicely. Um, so there we have it. All right. So the other thing I wanted to show you is, of course, just this with, I boost this up just a little bit because I want it centered on my piece. I can ink this up. And I may not get, see, I did not get a really good full image. So, because I used my positioner, and like I said, there are many positioners out there. So, check that out. Probably the one that's most recommended, or you'll see in other videos, is the Misty. And that's made by My Sweet Petunia. And as long as you're out at My Sweet Petunia, check out her glue press. The glue press is like amazing. I have shown that a couple of times in videos over the last few weeks. All right, let's see what we got. I like it. I feel like I might be missing one little piece right in there, which would be right here. Let's try that one more time. And yep, we got it. So there's our piece. Now look at, we've stamped that 3 times and the image is perfect. So there's a lot to be said for these um, positions. Right. Now I've got my stencils are all in my little bin of water over here. So I'm just going to grab a couple of these and I'm going to show you something kind of cool with stencils. So let's say we don't want to do all 5 stencils, okay? I just have to get the ones I need there. Sorry. Sure. So now I've got them back in my little tray, and I've got them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Now, because I already have the black centers, right, from stamping, so what I want to do is just bring in, I want to just bring in this stencil. I can line it up on my stamped image, just like that. Now I'm going to bring in these magnets that I showed you. Okay. And now I want just a very, I'm going to try to be very light-handed with this. So I'm going to grab my Calypso Coral brush and I'm just going to do a very light blend in the centers of the flowers, like that. Okay. Then I'm going to do a little bit heavier hand at the outer edges of the flowers, not so much in the center. I think I'm making sense of this. I hope I am. All right. So let's take the glass, and you see what happened here? It's only colored those flowers. So let's see. What do we have that really is amazing? I was wondering when you would demo this. I love your project. Thanks, Beth. Blues and purples, you got it. Yellows and pinks would be awesome too. Morning, mesmerized watching. I know it is mesmerizing. When you do it, you, I don't know, like I said, I can't talk while I'm doing it. It's just so weird. All right. So now is what I want to do is I'm going to put the leaves on here. Now there's a couple of things I want to show you about this too. So I'm going to put those in place. And then I'm not doing the leaves quite yet. Do you see these 3 blooms right here? I want those to be calypso coral. Okay, so there's that. Now, I do want a little bit of color in the leaves. So I'm going to bring in my green blending brush, my granny apple green, and then I can add Just a really soft green tint to the leaves. And I did spill over on a couple of the leaves with some of the calypso coral, but I think it'll be okay. I'll show you those here in just a. All right, let's lift this and just look at that, you guys. With just that little tiny bit of blending. It is so fun. And now we don't have to stop there because remember there were the little lines for in the flowers. So if we want to, which I am going to do just for the sake of demonstration. All right, I have that where I want it. I'm going to bring in my Poppy Parade because this is going to give me a highlight. Now again, I'm not going to go heavy-handed. I'm just going to go lightly. Just enough to add a little bit of a shadow in there. Okay, take those off, lift, and voila. So that's how you can work with the stamped image by just adding. Now, see, I'm not gonna use the centers because I already have the black centers from the stamp, right? And I'm not going to use. I could use the veining in the leaves, but I'm not going to because I've stamped those black, and I really love how this looks. So because I started with a quarter of a sheet of paper, it measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So it's what I want to do. I'm going to get these out of here before they're super magnets and I always end up pinching my fingers. I'm just going to bring in the trimmer and I'm going to trim it down to, I think I can just go ahead and do one side. So I'm going to do 4. My border looks a little bit bigger, so I'm going to do 4 by 5 1/4. So now I have this. And if I want to, I'm going to keep this here because I don't have my piece cut. I think because I've got that black ink on there, that this was really going to make it pop. So it was 4, so I want 4 1/8. Whoops. And 5 3/8. And then I'll have just a tiny little black border on there. And I could do it on a white card, but I have an awful lot of white. So I think I'm going to bring in one of the upcoming retiring colors. It's called Parakeet Party. And I'm going to cut this at 4 1/2 by 11, which then means I will need to score it at 5 1/2. So then if I put just that little bit of, just want to make sure that these are the colors I want before I glue everything down. I think to put it on this green card with just a little peekaboo is really stunning. And then if we take the Love Endures All Things and pop that up like right in here, what a pretty card, right? Ah, Nancy, thanks. You know, this These are really beautiful cards, and they look like there's so much to them, and there's really not. It's just the blending piece. So I'm going to just add some adhesive here and get this centered on my, the other thing too is if you want to, I always think about, um, do I want it portrait or do I want it landscape? Which we could do it landscape too, like this, and then just have this down in the corner, which I really like the way that looks too. What do you think? Portrait, landscape. And then our card would open like this, which make very many of those kind of cards either, which that is really kind of fun. Portrait, landscape. So landscape. Let's see it pretty. Add a few pearl accents. I agree. And you know what else I think it needs? I think it needs a little bit of wink of Stella to give those poppies a little kind of a dewy or a misty looking. I'm going to grab some dimensionals here. And you guys, honestly, I had one card done, but I didn't like it when I was working up for this video. So I'm glad that this is turning out for us. I'm going to put this right over here. And then let's see what we have for pearls. There are some really pretty, there's like um, the flat back pearls. Those might be kind of pretty. There are, I'm just trying to think about the poppies. I have the iridescent pearls. And then the thing there is, are these, the ombre matte decorative embellishments that look like this, which has the calypso coral and a little bit of green. I do think I am going to use the iridescent pearls. Let's give these a try and just see what we find. Take your pick tool. These are so pretty if you haven't seen these in person. So let's put one right here on our label. And then I'm just going to add a few out and about on the edges. Yeah, on the edges of our, yeah, I've got 5 of them on there. Great idea, Karen. The pearls added a lot. There we have it. That is my enduring beauty demonstration. I hope that you are inspired by today's, wow, I love that. Gorgeous. Okay, Karen said portrait, and then I did landscape. Yeah, so let's try, even with pearls, let's try a little bit of Wink of Stella with, try some Wink of Stella with the, and I'm going to actually just do um, a little bit like on the lines for, that was a lot of Wink of Stella. Just on the stamped lines on the flower just to give it a little And you guys, if you're in my neighborhood and you want to give this blending thing a try before you buy, you're welcome to stop by for that. So, all right, there we have our little bit of shine and shimmer and pearls and the whole thing. Cool. All right, you guys, be sure to comment, like, share, and I will see you on next Saturday. There's a little caveat there. My granddaughter is going to sections for wrestling. And so I don't know if I'm going to be home Saturday, but if I'm not, I will do a recorded episode. So until next Saturday, here's to a warm cup of coffee and a great rest of your weekend. Bye for now.